beauty is supposed to be subjective. Ask 10 people what the most beautiful car ever made is, and you might get 10 different answers. But here's the strange thing. When you actually study the cars that keep showing up on every list, in every museum, at every concours d'Elegance from Pebble Beach to Villa d'Est, a pattern emerges. The greatest automotive designs in history weren't accidents. They were obsessions. Cars shaped by engineers who cared more about the curve of a fender than the size of the engine. Cars that were sometimes commercial failures because the men who built them refused to compromise the shape for the sake of profit. Today, we're counting down the cars that didn't just move people from one place to another. They moved people. Period. Stick around, because the story behind number 1 is one of the strangest in automotive history. Number 10. The Citroën DS. We start with a car that looked so far ahead of its time in 1955 that people genuinely thought it had landed from space. The Citroën DS was nicknamed the Goddess in French, and it earned that name. Its low teardrop body had almost no straight lines. The headlights were covered in glass domes that swiveled with the steering wheel, decades before that became a modern luxury feature. Underneath, it used a hydropneumatic suspension so advanced that the car could famously drive on 3 wheels after losing one and still stay level. Roland Barthes, the French philosopher, wrote an entire essay about this car, comparing it to Gothic cathedrals. That's not typically the kind of praise a car receives. But the DS wasn't really a car. It was a statement that the future had arrived early. Number 9. The Jaguar E-Type. Enzo Ferrari is often quoted as calling the Jaguar E-Type the most beautiful car ever made. Whether or not he actually said those exact words, the sentiment stuck, because it's hard to argue with. Launched in 1961, the E-Type had a nose that stretched on seemingly forever, tapering into a shape borrowed almost directly from Jaguar's Le Mans racing cars. It wasn't designed by a committee. It was shaped mostly through wind tunnel testing and instinct by engineer Malcolm Sayer, a man who had previously worked in aircraft design. That background shows. The E-Type doesn't look like it was built. It looks like it was carved by air itself. Number 8. The Lamborghini Miura. Before the Miura, supercars didn't really exist as a category. Lamborghini changed that in 1966 with a car that put the engine behind the driver's seat, sideways, which was almost unheard of for a road car at the time. But the true genius was the body, designed by a young Marcello Gandini. The Miura's low, wide stance and those unmistakable eyelash trim pieces around the headlights gave it a face that was somehow both aggressive and seductive. It said that the Miura was the car that launched the entire supercar era, the template that Ferrari, Lamborghini, and everyone else has been chasing ever since. Number 7. The Mercedes-Benz 300 SL, better known as the Gullwing. This one's a good reminder that some of the most beautiful design choices start as engineering problems. The racing chassis underneath made normal doors impossible, so engineers hinge them at the roof instead, and they swing up like wings. Nobody remembers the Gullwing for being the fastest production car of 1954, which it was. They remember it for that one moment when the doors lift open. Number 6. is the Ferrari 250 GTO. And this is where rarity starts doing a lot of the work. Only 36 were ever built between 1962 and 1964. And today, one will sell for over $50 million. But that's not really what makes it beautiful. Every line on this car exists because it had to, shaped almost entirely in a wind tunnel with speed as the only goal. Ferrari wasn't trying to make a sculpture. They were trying to make something fast, and the sculpture happened anyway. At number 5, the Alfa Romeo 8C 2900 from the late 1930s. Long before Italy became synonymous with supercars, this is where that reputation started. Coach builders like Touring of Milan shaped these bodies by hand, one at a time, which is a big reason so few survive today. When one does turn up at auction, it's usually one of the most expensive cars in the room, because it represents an era when a car was built the way you'd build a piece of furniture or a piece of jewelry. Number 4, the Aston Martin DB5. Most people know it from a British spy franchise, but it earned its spot here long before James Bond ever got in it. Unveiled in 1963, it nailed a formula Aston Martin had been chasing for years. Long hood, short tail, proportions that look right from every single angle. Designers throw the word timeless around too easily, but 6 decades later, this is one of the few cars where it actually still applies. At number 3, the Bugatti Type 57 SC Atlantic. Only 4 were ever built in the late 1930s, and one of them disappeared during World War II and has never turned up. The signature detail is a raised seam running down the spine of the car and over each fender, which actually came from how the lightweight magnesium panels had to be joined. On paper, that sounds like a flaw to hide. On the car, it's the whole point. One surviving Atlantic reportedly sold privately around 2010 for somewhere near $30 to $40 million. Number 2. The Lancia Stratos Zero, a concept car from 1970 that doesn't look like anything else on this list. It's barely knee-high, and you climb in through the windshield because there's no conventional door at all. Marcello Gandini designed this one too, the same guy behind the Miura, and it proves beauty doesn't always mean elegant curves. Sometimes it just means having the nerve to ignore every rule at once. And at number 1, the Duesenberg SJ. Here's the strange part. In the early 1930s, in the middle of the Great Depression, this small American company was building some of the most extravagant cars on earth, while most of the country couldn't afford bread. Gary Cooper had one. So did Clark Gable. Every SJ was essentially custom, shaped by a coach builder to match the owner's taste. So no two were really identical. Duesenberg went bankrupt by 1937, in part because chasing this level of beauty was never going to pay the bills. But that's exactly why it's here at number 1. For a few short years, an American car company decided beauty mattered more than the balance sheet, and nobody's really matched what they built since. So that's the list. If you only got to own one of these, which one are you taking? Drop it in the comments. I have a feeling this one's going to start an argument. And if you want to see what $1 million actually buys in the world of luxury, that video's up next.